the entire reality TV industry is trembling after Kirk Frost finally broke his silence. For years, viewers have watched the drama, betrayals, and shocking twists play out on screen, but Kirk claims that everything we believed to be true was false. From backstage manipulations to cast members being coerced into violent altercations, Kirk is revealing the dark truth about what actually happens behind the cameras, and the biggest shock, he says he was set. According to sources close to Kirk, he has been suppressing this truth for a long time out of fear of the consequences if he spoke out. However, after everything he has endured, the cheating scandals, the public humiliation, and the harsh fan backlash he has endured while defending the show, he is now prepared to come clean about the betrayals, lies, and power struggles that took place behind the scenes. What did the producers force him to do? Who was involved in the setup? Most importantly, why is he speaking out now? Stay tuned. Kirk Frost had been silent for too long, but now he wasn't holding back. He sat in a dimly lit room, and his expression was serious, almost as if he was carrying the weight of something he had kept hidden for years. He took a deep breath and exhaled slowly before finally saying the words that sent shockwaves through the industry. It was never real. Fans have been speculating for years that reality TV wasn't as real as it seemed. The show that made Kirk famous and the platform that made his personal life into entertainment for millions of people were both meticulously planned, manipulated, and controlled in ways he never could have imagined when he first signed on. However, what finally made him speak out, and why was he finally telling the truth after all these years? It all began when Per noticed something odd going on behind the scenes. At first, it was small things though. One night in particular changed everything for him. The lights were bright, the cameras were rolling, and he had just walked into what he thought was a normal scene, but something felt off, and Rashida was standing there with her arms crossed. Producers asked him to repeat certain lines, encouraging him to react a certain way, and even suggesting how he should respond in emotional moments. He dismissed this, thinking it was just part of making good television. Kirk later discovered that producers had already spoken to Rashida before he had entered the room, telling her exactly how to react. They had fed her lines, planted ideas in her head, and transformed a straightforward conversation into a full-fledged argument for ratings. However, that wasn't even the worst part. When Kirk began defending himself, something shocking happened. Her eyes were filled with anger, but it wasn't genuine anger. It was the kind of forced tension that only occurs when someone is being coached on what to say. Kirk was shocked when a producer interrupted the scene and said, No, say it like this." The cameras cut, and Kirk realized that this was not reality TV. Rather, it was a scripted setup. They wanted drama, they needed conflict, and they were willing to push the cast to the limit to get it. Kirk couldn't believe what was happening. He had been manipulated for years into being the antagonist while the show's producers planned every fight every single time. As Kirk sat in his dressing room that night, staring at himself in the mirror, he overheard a conversation that made his blood run cold. "Just tell Rashida we have something on Kirk." One of the producers whispered to a crew member, and Kirk froze, wondering what they meant by something on him and what they were planning. It was betrayal and every emotional breakdown, but there was something even darker going on behind the scenes that made Kirk wonder if staying on the show was still worth it. He soon discovered that they were fabricating entire scandals instead of just manipulating scenes, and this time they were going to use his name to carry out one of the biggest betrayals of all. At first, he thought he might have misheard, but as the rumors persisted, he understood that there was no miscommunication. The producers were planning something that would make him appear worse than ever before. Kirk had been portrayed as the antagonist of. No matter what he did or how hard he tried to change things, the show always managed to pull him back into the same storyline. Now that they were planning something even bigger, he had to find out what it was. So Kirk did something he never would have thought to do. He started spying on his show. Late at night, when the cameras were off, Kirk started hanging around the production. Love and hip hop. Kirk overheard a conversation between one of the show's top producers and a new female cast member. She had only been on set for a few weeks, but now she was going to play a significant role in Kirk's plot. "You just have to say you had an affair with him," the producer told her, and Kirk's heart almost stopped. The discovery shocked him to his core. The producers weren't just manipulating the cast, they were paying people to lie on camera. It became evident at that point that the show didn't just thrive on drama, it created it. The cheating scandals, the explosive fights, the broken relationships, all of it was carefully crafted to keep viewers hooked and engaged. He didn't even know this woman. He had hardly spoken to her. However, here was a producer offering her money, telling her to lie on camera, and claiming that she had been secretly involved with Kirk behind Rashida's back. He couldn't believe it. For years, he had held himself responsible for everything. He had carried the guilt of being the villain, the unfaithful husband, the man who couldn't keep his family together. However, he now realized that the show had never given him a chance. They needed a villain, and he was their ideal target. However, Kirk was done playing their game. If they believed they could control him indefinitely, they were mistaken. This time, he wasn't going to sit back and let them destroy him. His name was going to fight back this time, and what happened next was something no one saw coming. Kirk sat in his car that night, gripping the steering wheel, his mind racing. The revelation was too much to handle. He had been the antagonist of hip-hop and love for years, the husband who was always in the middle of a scandal, the man who couldn't stay faithful. But now he knew the truth. The producers had been controlling the story all along, and the worst part was that they were going to do it again. The more he considered it, the more irate he became. He took out his phone and began looking through old producer messages when he noticed an old text from a former cast member warning him, "Be careful, man. They're setting you up." I tried to fight. He had to do something. He couldn't just sit back and let them ruin his name again. But the question was, how far were they willing to go if they were already paying people to lie on camera? What else had they done behind the scenes? When it didn't work out, Kirk's stomach dropped. He wasn't the first, so he sought answers quickly, so he took a chance and confronted the producers directly. The following morning, he arrived at the studio earlier than usual. The set was quiet, with only a few crew members getting ready for the day, but Kirk wasn't there to film. He was there for the truth. He located one of the executive producers, a man he had known for years but now viewed in a whole new way. "Tell me the truth," Kirk said. "How much of this is real?" The producer asked in a steady but tense voice. "Come on, Kirk. You've been here long enough, or you already know the answer to that." Kirk clenched his jaw. "So the new girl, you're paying her to lie about me." The producer ran a hand through his hair. "It's not about lying, Kirk. It's about giving the audience what they want. They want drama. They want chaos. And right now you're the..." Kirk's hands balled into fists, but he forced himself to remain composed. If the producers had fabricated his drama, how many others had they manipulated? Kirk felt the surge of rage. "You're ruining my life for ratings." "Your life," the producer scoffed. "Kirk, we made you. Without the show, you're just another guy trying to stay relevant. The scandals, the cheating rumors, and the fights, that's why people care about you. Without us, you're nothing." What if this was more than just the cast? What if the entire franchise was Bill Clum? The same lies. Kirk knew he needed proof, real proof, so he came up with a plan. If they wanted a storyline, he was about to give it to them, but on his terms. The next time he was called in to film, Kirk did something he had never done before. He secretly recorded every conversation with producers and every moment where they attempted to force a storyline. Each time they whispered instructions into the cast members' ears, and what he managed to record was worse than he could have ever imagined. One producer was captured on camera telling Rashida exactly how to respond before Kirk had even entered the room. Another clip showed a fictitious argument between two cast members who were actually close friends, but the producers had persuaded them to act as enemies. Finally, the worst recording of all was a private conversation where Kirk listened to the playback in shock. But this was the proof he needed. If he revealed this, he could ruin the show, blow up Love and Hip Hop, take down the producers, and finally clear his name. However, the producer acknowledged that some fights have been staged since the beginning. "We create the drama before the season even starts," the voice said. "We plant ideas, push certain cast members to say things, and if we need to, we make things up." When he realized what that meant, they would come for him. The network had influential people, so if he disagreed with them, they wouldn't just ignore it. They would do whatever it took to keep the show safe. Then, as Kirk was considering his next course of action, he received a phone call that entirely changed everything. A deep voice on the other end of the line said, "You would rather not do this, Kirk." And then the line went dead. Kirk's heart raced. Who was that producer? Someone from the... Kirk realized that this was more than just reality TV. It was about control, power, and safeguarding the empire they had built, and Kirk was their biggest threat. The question now was what he was going to do about it. Kirk sat frozen, staring at his phone, that voiced the calm, cold warning. It wasn't just a random call. Someone was watching him. Someone knew exactly what he was planning. How did they know what he was planning? Had they already discovered that he was recording? As he looked around his living room, his heart was racing. Had he gone too far? Was he really in danger? He needed to talk to someone he could trust. Rashida was the only person who came to mind. Their relationship had been tested for years. Betrayals, scandals, fights. Everything had happened in front of the cameras, but now this was more than a reality TV plot. It was about the truth. He called her, and as soon as she answered, he could hear the tension in. There was a pause on the other end, and then Rashida sighed. "Kirk, if this is about the show, it's not just about the show." He cut in. "It's about everything. They're lying to us, Rashida. They've been lying for years." "What's wrong?" he asked. He hesitated. Could he trust her with this? "I need to see you." Finally, he said, "It's serious." An hour later, Kirk was in Rashida's kitchen, seated across from her, with his phone on the. Each second he watched Rashida's face change, from confusion to disbelief to anger. As he played the recordings, the producer's whispers, the instructions to stage fights, and the stage drama that had almost destroyed their marriage on TV, she stopped shaking her head, saying, "They did this to us. They controlled everything." Kirk added, "Every time we fought, every time we broke down, every time you doubted me, it was all set up. They knew exactly how to push us, and we fell for it." Kirk leaned forward, saying, "They're going to do it again, Rashida. They have this new girl who says I cheated, and it's all fake, but they don't care. They're setting me up to be the bad guy again, and if I don't fight back, they'll ruin me." Rashida looked away, massaging her temples. "So what do we do?" Kirk said without hesitation, "I go public. I put everything out there." Then Rashida reached for his phone and scrolled through the audio clips, replaying them to allow reality to set in. Finally, she said the last thing Kirk expected. "Then we did it together." Kirk's head snapped up. "You're not in this alone," she said firmly. "Widen, Kirk. You realize what that means, right? You won't just be going against the producers. You'll be going against the entire network." "But I know," he said, "but I don't have a choice." This was the first time in years that he and Rashida were genuinely in agreement. But before he could say anything, her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and froze. "It's one of the producers," she muttered. Kirk tensed. "Don't answer it." However, Rashida was already tapping the screen. "Hey," cautiously, and Kirk watched as her expression darkened. "What do you mean keep Kirk in check?" she snapped. "They know Kirk's blood ran cold. They know about the recordings. They know you're planning something," she whispered, and Kirk jumped to his feet, pacing the kitchen. "What are they doing wrong?" She stopped abruptly, her lips pressing into a tight line. Whatever was being said on the other end of the call wasn't good. Her eyes slowly met Kirk's, and the fear in them sent chills down his spine. She ended the call, staring at her phone like it had just burned her. He muttered. Now it made sense. The phone call, the warning, the way the producers were suddenly acting different. "They're trying to scare me. But then Rasha shook her head. The last time he met with the producers, the last time they asked him to play along with the new storyline, there had been cameras and microphones recording everything, he said. It's worse. They want to control you, not just scare you, she claimed. If they can't, they'll make sure you never work in this industry again. There was a heavy silence in the room, and Kirk realized she was right. If he went through with this and revealed everything, he was not only risking his place on the show, but also his entire career. Before Kirk could decide what to do next, his phone buzzed again, and he and Rashida exchanged glances. He responded slowly, but a deep, unknown voice said, "You need to stop." Kirk's grip on the phone tightened. "Who is this?" The voice ignored him. "You're making a mistake. Walk away now, or you'll regret it." The call ended, and Kirk suddenly realized that this was about power and that no one wanted him to talk any longer. Kirk stood frozen, gripping his phone so tightly that his hands trembled. The message was clear. Someone didn't want the truth to come out, and they were. He had been in this business long enough to recognize an indirect threat, so when he heard one, his mind raced as he repeated the words in his head. Rashida saw the tension on his face and grabbed his arm. "Kirk, what is it? Who was that?" He exhaled sharply, trying to keep his voice steady. "They knew what I was doing, and they asked me to stop before it was too late." Rashida's eyes widened. "Kirk, this isn't just about a show anymore. You're messing with powerful people. I have to do this for Sheeta because I've allowed them to control my life for too long. I won't let them scare me into silence." She shook her head, fear flickering across her face, but at what cost? Kirk laughed bitterly, "Ruining me. If they came after you." Kirk knew she was right. This was bigger than he had anticipated, but he couldn't back down after everything he had seen and everything he had been forced to do for the sake of reality TV. Rashida sighed and crossed her arms. "Then we do it smart. We don't just throw it out." Years of being portrayed as the bad guy for ratings, years of watching his real life fall apart while producers sat back and counted their money. "No, Rashida, this time I'm taking control of my story." He sat down, rubbing his temples. He had proof, recordings that exposed the manipulation of the stage fights and the pressure to fake drama for views. If he released them, people would see the truth. "We make sure it's everywhere before they can bury it." Kirk looked at her in shock. "You're with me on this?" She said, "You should have been with me a long time ago. I'm done letting them win." Kirk felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. I hope he wasn't in this alone. They spent the next few hours going through the files, picking the most damaging ones, the clips that would shake the foundation of love and hip-hop. The journalist on the other end didn't even hesitate to send it over. Kirk's hands were steady as he hit send. There was no turning back now, and they waited for hours before it happened. The leaks hit the internet like a wildfire, and the headlines were blown. Kirk Frost exposes love and hip-hop fans were shocked. He needed real journalists, people who had exposed corruption before he made the call. People analyzed every detail, including clips of producers coaching cast members, footage of reshoots that made emotional fights look staged, and emails discussing how to turn real-life events into more compelling storylines. The backlash was immediate, with fans demanding answers and other cast members speaking out. Some confirmed everything Kirk said, while others said, "Wait," so they forced them to fake drama. "This show is worse than we thought." Remained quiet out of fear of losing their place, and then the network responded with a well-crafted statement that said nothing whatsoever. "We take these accusations seriously, but we stand by our integrity as a reality TV show." Lies, and the audience saw right through it. Sponsors began to withdraw, and advertisers didn't want to be associated with the show now that it was being called exploitative and manipulative. Kirk had accomplished his goal, but he knew the battle wasn't over, so he waited for the backlash to hit him, and it did. The network cut him off entirely. He lost all love and hip-hop, all deals, all industry connections, and his business partners stopped calling. He was blacklisted overnight, but for the first time in years, he felt free. He was no longer playing their game, and surprisingly, the fans supported him. "They may blacklist you, but we still stand by you," even if Rashida saw it. This isn't the end, Kirk. It's just the beginning. As he watched the chaos unfold, he wondered if she was right and if losing everything was the only way to finally take back his life. They had spent years controlling his story, but now he was finally telling it himself. Kirk Frost had just done the unthinkable by exposing the truth about hip-hop and love, risking everything. However, as the dust settled, there was still a question. What will happen next? Will the network fight back? Will other cast members come forward with even more shocking disclosures? Or will this whole controversy be forgotten like so many other industry secrets? Fans are already picking sides, with some supporting Kirk and others doubting his intentions. Was this the case of justice, or was it just a publicity stunt? One thing is for sure, though, love and hip-hop will never be the same again. Kirk's truth has exposed the lies that kept viewers glued to their screens for years. But is this the end of his career or the beginning of something new? But only time will tell. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Kirk was right to come clean, or should he have just left quietly? What do you think will happen next? Will the network take revenge, or will more cast members come forward? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you don't want to miss the next shocking update on this drama, make sure to hit the subscribe button and enable notifications because we promise you this: the story is far from over.